Before I tear this movie a new brown hole, I want to address a few things. The first of which being that I'm in no way suggesting that the original Space Jam is some kind of masterpiece that is beyond reproach. While I was a kid when that movie came out, I see the OG Space Jam for what it is. A marketing tool. This whole series was built on the back of some Nike commercials that included our loony friends.
What's all the racket?
Where I will give this some credit is here. Space Jam 1 was one of the few movies existing at that time that mixed live action with animation. It also helped that there is a real life narrative that neatly fit into this movie.
I thought you retired.
I'm talking about MJ's retirement from basketball. Mike playing baseball and eventually coming back to the sport he had dominated fit perfectly into this storyline. Sadly for LeBron, he has no such story to fit this movie around. While both movies are shameless cash grabs meant to convince kids and their parents to consume, at least the old Space Jam was doing something new at the time. Space Jam 2 is a soulless copy of a marketing scheme from 30 years ago that is also playing the nostalgia game to get more people to buy into HBO Max. Point 2. I know that this is a kids movie, and I'll keep that in mind as we go forward. However, not all kids' movies are trash, so I reject the concept that it doesn't matter, it's just a kids' movie. Go watch one of these and tell me that all kids' movies suck. Now, before we get into spoiler territory, let's talk about the general likes and dislikes of this new legacy for Space Jam. Well, I like basketball. I like video games. I like some of the Warner Brothers owned properties that were referenced in this movie. This movie has a theme. I'm not so sure you can say that for the original. And above all, I loved the Michael Jordan joke at halftime. Dislikes. The animation. Not even just the 3D CGI animation. Even some of the cartoon stuff was subpar. The soundtrack. No matter what you may think about the original movie, that movie had some bangers on its soundtrack. I Believe I Can Fly, the Space Jam theme, and that's it. That's all I'm going to name. Go look back at that soundtrack yourself and find those certified bangers, and then comb through this new movie and show me any song that had any impact on you that you will even bother looking up. The original Space Jam soundtrack sold records, man. That thing was popular. This, I'm not a fan of the member berries that serviced as jokes. Member Matrix, member Game of Thrones, member Casablanca. Referencing other material is not a joke unless you're a junior in high school in the year 2005. The writing. Somehow, believe it or not, having 6 people write one movie will rarely, if ever, turn out to be a good idea. Also, I dislike algorithms, but that's just more of a me thing. In general, if you missed this on HBO Max and don't have a young one at home, just hold off and hold on to those good memories that you have and avoid this sequel until it is available to stream again. Do not go and spend your money watching this as a childless adult. And with that, we now enter the spoiler zone. You've been warned. Yeah, the movie starts with young LeBron James getting dropped off at school by his single mother. She's sad that she won't be at his game. He's also very sad. They have a handshake, nice uplifting moment. And the soundtrack kicks in with Ghetto Superstar as our young protagonist practices with his Looney Tunes backpack at his feet. Coach Julius calls isolations for LeBron, stating, "Nobody else shoot the ball." Which is hilarious to me because while this is not at all how youth basketball should be coached, it's exactly how it is coached when there's one supremely talented kid on the floor and coach is concerned about getting that next job. I can only imagine what it would have been like to play with someone as talented as LeBron at that age. Just blows my mind. From there, coach dunks on video games and says that baby Bron can't possibly make a good life for himself as long as he has that hand-me-down Game Boy in his hands. And so our hero throws it in the trash and boom, we're off to the opening credits. But wait, what was going on with that Game Boy? It looks like Bugs Bunny is reaching out from the great beyond. And then the acting begins. Okay, now I'm going to take it easy on any kid actors because, well, they're children, and I'm not that much of a bully. Quite frankly, they aren't being helped much by this dialogue. Who wrote this thing? LeBron and the kids sound plastic in this first scene at James Manor. The way a first-time actor in a school play sounds. But those kids in those school plays have to over-enunciate because they aren't mic'd up. This is why you don't fill a scene with nothing but kids and non-actors. LeBron is of course echoing his childhood coach as he chastises his younger son about not playing video games. I don't know how this is still a relevant topic in a film in 2021. The average gamer is in their 30s. The whole world games. This is a BS narrative that should have been shelved by now. But hey, Boomer Bron has got to have his internal conflict and his personal growth story arc, so here we are. Finally, a real actor appears as mom brings the kids in for dinner. Another musical transition makes you feel like the opening credits haven't ended yet and leads us to Mrs. James beating up Bron for not affirming Dom. Dom is, of course, Bron's younger son. The key to this entire movie is Dom. So Mom immediately tells Bron what I anticipated to be the message of this movie from the adult perspective. Don't be coach, be dad. I have no doubts that he continues this endeavor until the message is ham-fistedly shoved back down our throats when it is discovered that the only way to defeat whatever Monstars knockoff that threatens the universe is to beat them in a round of Fortnite or something equally charming. Then Don Cheadle introduces himself as just an algorithm, expositing all over the place while his mute CGI ward looks on. Apparently some WB app that Don created will be his key to escaping the serververse, and King James is somehow the perfect person for Cheadle's big plan. Al G. Rhythm, as he calls himself, then sets up a meeting with LeBron, who decides to take young Dom along as a bonding ritual or something. I remember all the times that my dad would have to take me along on business meetings, and quite frankly, it looks like I was lucky, because apparently that shit is dangerous. Now, it turns out that Warner Brothers wants to use the WB3000 software to upload a copy of LeBron into movies and TV shows. Which is, of course, a great idea because animation isn't a thing in this reality or something. LeBron's refusal was even better. He basically shits on the concept of the movie while in the movie, and I can't tell if that was one of the 6 writers deciding to have some fun at the movie's expense and maybe trying to be self-referential, maybe try to do something meta, something cool, but after listening to a pitch designed to embrace LeBron's busy lifestyle, the point of the software is, of course, to copy him so he won't actually need to be there. He states, "I'm a ball player, and I can't take time away from the game." It should be pointed out that a bit of wisdom does shine through here from Bron, as he says, "Athletes and acting don't mix." And that right there, if you had to review this movie in one sentence, there it is, boys and girls. Athletes and acting do not mix. Look no further than this movie franchise. So they trash the algorithm and have a father-son camp fight, which leads to the James boys getting abducted by Al. Upset by LeBron dissing him, Al G. Rhythm states that LBJ has to play him in a game of hoops, since King James didn't want to have his likeness included in the WB 9000 or whatever it is. The only way that Bron can save his son is to recruit a basketball team to play against Al and his goons in the serververse. And thus, the plot is set.
Why is the animation so bad on this? I mean, look at LeBron's beard and where his beard and sideburns connect. I mean, it's like they couldn't even finish drawing it. Even the cartoon animations, it's like, I don't know, it's choppy. It kind of looks like claymation at times. So I don't understand. This is a $150 million movie. Why didn't you spend money adequately staffing your animation staff? How do we feel, by the way, about this 3D animation nowadays? Am I just an old man unwilling to accept the future, or in this case, I guess the present? Or am I maybe right to think that standard animation is not completely outdated? These 3D models, I don't think that it looks any better. And isn't it more expensive to do it this way? And so if you didn't have these unnecessary additions, you could have, I don't know, utilized that budget and had animation that actually looked good. It doesn't make any sense to me. You spent more money than you had to, and you made a movie that wasn't as good as it could have been. And we were halfway into this movie, by the way. The game itself, unless there's some long epilogue, the game itself is going to be an hour of this 2-hour movie. And that's something to note for when we go back and look at the old one. Because, sweet Jesus. Okay, now wait a minute. The Al G. Rhythm, his whole plan at the beginning was to get out, or to be known. I'm pretty sure it was specifically to get out, but maybe that was a metaphor for being known throughout the world. But now that he's got Dom's game and all these people watching, like a tenth of the actual world's population, I don't remember how many followers it said LeBron had, but it's not in the billions. So a small fraction of the world's population is watching this game. And if his team wins, they just have to stay in the serververse, which, mind you, has the population of every single owned Warner Brothers property in its own actual universe with planets. But this villain will be sated by consuming, let's just say, a seventh of Earth's population, and that is being incredibly generous. Okay, the game's gonna start now. Oh, and also the tunes will be deleted. For no reason. There's no motivation for that other than the villain just wants to ruin Bugs Bunny's life, because before he offered them all an upgrade to move out of Toontown, Toon World, which made no sense anyway. During that whole storytelling part, none of that made sense. Like, why is he doing that? What's the point? What's his motive there to have the Toons not occupy the Toon Planet? Well, he doesn't seem to care that the DC universe is on its own planet, or Harry Potter, or fucking Mad Max, or whatever else I'm forgetting right now. So why did the Toons get the opportunity, unless somehow he just knew Bugs Bunny well enough to know that Bugs wouldn't like it, and then it's just a big fucking troll to Bugs, and so now he's also going to just kill all the Toons, who he's never had any beef with at this point, except for the one. And you'd think if he really wanted to fuck with Bugs Bunny, he would delete all the other Toons and leave Bugs alive, but being too critical. There's still a fucking hour left of this. The game hasn't even started yet. They just introduced Diana Taurasi as a snake, and I know Anthony Davis is like an eagle or some shit. I don't even know what the rest of them are going to be. I love that these guys went the Seattle Seahawk Vince McMahon route and pumped crowd volume into the stadium, because either that or the movie wants you to believe that the hundreds of thousands of people that Don Cheadle just told would be trapped in the serververse should LeBron lose. All of those people just cheered in joyous applause for Dom, even though if Dom wins, they'll all be trapped forever in this internet world. So yeah, there you have it, folks. The audience of people who should all be rooting for the good guys are apparently rooting for the bad guys. I know it's a kids movie, but goddamn, there are good kids movies in the world that don't suck and aren't completely stupid. I mentioned this already in the handwritten notes, but God, is LeBron not a good actor? I'm not saying Michael Jordan was, but I'm not just comparing this to the last Space Jam. There's plenty to say about that movie. I'm not sitting here saying it was great and this one sucks, but what I'm saying is LeBron is not a good... He sounds like plastic, dude. Between him and Dom, which the older brother isn't much better. None of the kid actors are very good, but that's fine. Like I said before, they're children. I don't expect them to be good actors. The mistake you make is if you're a writer or a director and you put nothing but kid actors in scenes, then yeah, the acting's going to be bad. But damn, LeBron is just as bad, if not worse, than the kid in some of these scenes. The fewer talking lines, the better. He just... Every line of his sounds like a question. Like everything, just like the pitch of his voice goes up as the sentences go on. And it's just... Bad acting a lot of times is just an ineffectual director. If the read wasn't good, have him do it again. Have him do it again until it sounds like it needs to sound. The problem here is the guy who said, oh yeah, that's it, we got it. And when it's time for the game to start, he doesn't know what to do, and his wife is the one who says, you gotta win this game. You gotta get our son back. Okay, I'm gonna go do that. I now also know why LeBron has decided to change his number back to 6. for the Lakers next year, because I assume that with this movie coming out and him being the number 6 on the Toon Squad, it must do a lot for jerseys. I mean, it was already about jersey sales. That was what I figured initially was, oh, well, if he goes from 23 to 6, he can sell a whole plethora of new jerseys next season. But the Toon Squad, on top of that, bro, will make some shmoney. But yeah, the one thing LeBron should know, which is how to play basketball and when it's time to win the game, I don't know, I feel like LeBron's probably a better dad than they cast him at in this movie. He is helpless. He's like a teenager who got someone pregnant that has no idea how to raise children, even though this is like his 3rd kid. And anyway, whatever. The game's finally about to start. We're just starting what I imagine to be WWE style entrances that are going to take another fucking 3 minutes of screen time. At least, thank God, there's only going to be a half an hour of this, not a full hour like I thought. And here we have it. The power-ups that Dom has created are perfect for the Looney Tunes and their shenanigans and all that cool stuff we saw during the practice montage of them going back and forth. But LeBron, who is suddenly a boomer for this movie, refuses to do anything other than play fundamental, which is, of course, completely fitting to the character that is LeBron James, because he has never done anything like thrown an alley-oop to himself off the glass or done any sort of showing off on a fast break dunk. You know, he has no idea. At one point, they scored, and he's like, style points? Yeah, Dad. You get style points. And it's like, bro, let's not act like LeBron James doesn't know what the term style points is. This is so goofy. He's representing like a generation 20 years older than himself. LeBron is in the same ballpark as, what is he, 36? He's damn near my age. I know what the fuck style points mean. That's what I'm saying. Or I should say, I'm damn near his age. It makes no sense. And of course, it's going to take LeBron at least until halftime, I would guess, when the lead is virtually insurmountable, because it's got to be cartoon basketball. They're already down. After 2 baskets, they're down like 100-0. So LeBron's, of course, going to not learn his fundamental lesson until the last 3 minutes of the game, so they can pull off this just unbelievable, even for a movie where everyone's in a game in a cartoon world. That'll be the least believable thing of this whole movie, is that someone will come back from 190 points down in the last 2 minutes. But there you go, I figured it out, so only 40 minutes left. So on top of the crowd of soon-to-be kidnapped humans now chanting the Goon Squad's name, I noticed the serververse characters that have the front row seats, you know, the real high-end guys. At first they were giving me a chuckle, because right behind Coach Algie Rhythm were people cosplaying as Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin. No, Batman Forever. So they looked like somebody pretending to be a skinny Arnold. They had somebody cosplaying as Danny DeVito's Penguin from Batman Returns. But then they start doing things like having the Night King and a bunch of Game of Thrones zombies there. They had Pennywise there, where it's like, okay, it's one thing to try to repeat the member berries from Ready Player One, but it's another thing, like, don't put... Pennywise was a bridge too far for me. Like, don't start ruining other properties that you have by acknowledging, like, by putting them all in the fucking Space Jam serververse. Like, I know it's all fiction, it's all fake, but man, it's so cheap. Like, this movie is me as a high schooler, where instead of coming up with my own humor, I just referenced something from another movie, which admittedly is something I still think everyone does a little bit to this day. But when your whole movie is just nothing but references to other movies, and that's what you have deemed as comedy, and what the fuck, man? That's all I can say is what the fuck. Also, I think it's halftime now. They're down like 700 to 37, so there's that. Okay, the Michael B. Jordan thing was funny. And there it is, just like Bobby Boucher at the Boyban Bowl. It finally comes out. LeBron gets called a bad coach and a bad dad by the Looney Tunes. And he acts the way I imagine he probably acts in NBA locker rooms, where instead of being the leader, he's kind of pouty and whiny and no team could come back from this. I mean, I can't wait to watch the old one because I'm positive Michael wouldn't have allowed himself to show such weakness. You know, I still got those rose-colored MJ shades until I watched that movie and as an adult realized it sucked probably just as much ass, but it definitely had to have had a way better soundtrack than this at least. Jesus. But here we go. Lola dropped the big bomb. We've been trying to be like you, which resonates on two levels, man, because, like, his son is trying to be like Braun too, but like he just wants to be himself, and just like the Looney Tunes just want to be themselves. And who the Looney Tunes are, man, it like fits who Dom is. They want to be wacky and crazy, and have fun, and play video games, and like it's cool, man. It's like both trains the tracks are super parallel in case you really have a hard time figuring out what's going on, man. But I mean, again, fair for a kids movie, but like I don't know. Doesn't have to be this stupid. Doesn't have to be this paint by numbers, does it? Wow, check out this crowd. They're finally rooting for the good guys. Their only hope for salvation. I do love that they did the Dwayne Wade wink with Lola and then cut immediately to the old Monstar little slug guys after that. So see, it's not all bad. There's a few minutes of fun in here. Don't you guys love it in movies when the bad guy goes through this whole contrivance and pits the protagonist against some sort of obstacle, and then we find out once the result is truly in jeopardy that the bad guy had some even greater ace up their sleeve that they chose not to lead with, just in case, you know, just for fun, right? Just to make it more entertaining. Because, you know, the villain, their biggest goal is to make sure that the audience is entertained. So Bugs does the glitch. Braun gets his family back, takes his son to gaming camp. They were nice with the product placement there right at the end, just in case you hadn't noticed the multiple characters rocking Beats headphones around their neck while never actually using the Beats headphones. They made sure Dom had half of his set hanging out of his backpack, and when LeBron had tricked his son thinking they were going to basketball camp, but actually they were going to E3 camp, turns out Braun asked Dom for the ball back, and Dom's just sitting there holding it, making sure the LeBron logo's sticking out nice and good. Like, actually, Dad, I think I'm gonna keep it. So there you go. And then apparently through the credits, it's like, oh man, the Tunes are in the real world now, bro. They out here in this real world, dude, playing golf and tennis and all kinds of cool shit. What is this? I don't know, like a 4 out of 10.
That's all, folks.
Well, that's my line.